Welcome back into the Daily Dose. I'm Jeff Hansen. As always, the show is brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com and by CougarSportsInsider.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Thank you for your support of the show. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. Appreciate everything you guys do to fuel the algorithm. Little bit late getting this show up today. Had some previous priors that I needed to attend to. But here we are. Your daily dose is coming in the form of an afternoon daily dose. You know, sometimes you just get the dose a little bit later on. Today, we're talking offensive line. One of the things that BYU needs to do, first things that they need to figure out in fall camp, is the offensive line. Now, that sounds a little bit weird, right? In most circumstances, when you say, hey, BYU's got question marks on the offensive line, they've got to get it addressed, it kind of insinuates that BYU doesn't know what's going to happen at the offensive line, or maybe that the line play will not be good, things like that. For BYU, you know what you're going to get from a collective body. There's a lot of names that are very, very capable of playing and playing big reps for BYU. But an offensive line needs time to figure out chemistry. And this offensive line, albeit talented, is new to BYU. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of new names. And that chemistry has to be developed. So it behooves BYU to get that chemistry in place, start working together, find their starting five as soon as they possibly can through fall camp or in fall camp, so that they can work on chemistry through fall camp. So right now, offensive line, the only things that we know for sure is that Kingsley Suamataia is going to be the starting left tackle. Nobody is questioning that. That is set in stone. The only other thing we know for sure is that Connor Pay is going to be starting somewhere, probably at center. Maybe he moves to guard. That's one of the questions that Darrell Funk and Aaron Roderick have to figure out. Connor Pay, I think, is a better center than Paul Maile. I also think Connor Pay is a better guard than Paul Maile. So it's up to Coach Funk to figure out what makes the better unit. Does Pay playing center or Pay playing guard equate to a better starting five along the offensive line? That's what Darrell Funk has to figure out. Aside from those two things, we don't know really anything for sure at the offensive line, but there's a lot of things that I think we could start to assume. I think we can assume that Caleb Etienne is going to start at right tackle. He started 13 games for Oklahoma State at left tackle just a year ago. He's being brought in to be the bookend on the other side of Kingsley Suamataia. We don't know that yet, but I think we kind of know that Caleb Etienne is going to start at right tackle. So with Pay in the middle, Suamataia and Etienne at the bookends, you're feeling pretty good. So who fills out those guard spots? There's going to be a battle. Waylon Lapuaho transfers in from Utah State. As a true freshman, he started every game for the Aggies. He didn't miss a game immediately, game one. And I don't think that we appreciate how difficult that really is to go from high school, even if it's Utah State, even if it's the Mountain West Conference. It is so difficult to start on day one as an 18-year-old kid, as a true freshman. And that's what Waylon Lapuaho did. He had ups and downs throughout the year, but by and large, he played well. And that's the floor of what he's capable of doing. So does he fill in as a starting guard? I think a lot of people think so. I think so. But there's other names that are certainly going to be in the mix. We mentioned Paul Maile. He will be in the mix. Peter Falanico, it's now his second or third year in the program, and he will be in the mix. Trevin Osler is a fascinating prospect in my mind. When he was offered a scholarship by Darrell Funk and BYU when he was still at Bountiful High School, he weighed something like 230, 240 pounds. I thought maybe he would end up playing tight end because he was so tall, so skinny, so athletic. Now he's 330 pounds. He's ready to play offensive line at the Division I level. The last time BYU went to Bountiful High School and offered a scholarship to a kid who was 240 pounds, he turned into Brady Christensen, and Trevin Osler's gained weight like Brady Christensen, so maybe he's ready to fill in and take a starting spot, or at least a spot on the two deep. There's still newcomers like Ian Fitzgerald from Missouri State. He started 29 games in his career. And now Missouri State's not the Big 12 and not the same level of competition, but 29 starts is 29 starts at any level of college. That's nothing to scoff at. Ian Fitzgerald could very easily slide in and play guard for BYU. Simi Moala is on the roster now. He played tackle mostly at Utah when he was there, but maybe he slides in and plays guard as well. Or maybe he beats out Caleb Etienne at right tackle. Simi Moala is an option. Jake Eichhorn, another freshman. I get it, it's Weber State, but another true freshman out of Beaver High School who went to Weber State and found his way into the starting lineup at Weber State as an 18-year-old, as a true freshman. That's impressive. Jake Eichhorn, if he wasn't at Beaver High School during his preps career, he would have been a Power 5 caliber player all along. There's not a lot of Power 5 schools that go to Beaver High School to recruit. Jay Hill and Weber State did, and I think BYU now gets to reap the benefits of their recruiting efforts now that he's transferred down to Provo. I think Jake Eichhorn is very good. He's Power 5 good. Maybe he doesn't start in week 1, but Jake Eichhorn is a name that we're talking about as a foundational piece of this offensive line for years to come. Braden Keim is still there, and I get that he's been a walk-on, but he's proven that he can do it at BYU. There are so many names. You can never have too much talent, but if you don't figure out what you're doing with that talent or how you're going to deploy that talent, then the talent can start to become a problem. You've got to figure it out. You've got to find your answers. You've got to have a clear-cut starting 5 and a 2-deep that you start working on. And BYU's got a lot of questions. We're not going to question their capabilities. We're not going to question the talent, but they've got a lot of questions before they can say, yep, we know our starting line. We know what we're going to expect in week 1. Keaton Slovis, get used to these 5 guys. Aiden Robbins, these are the guys that are going to create holes for you. They've still got to figure all of that stuff out. And for me, that's my priority number 1 for BYU's offense as they start fall camp in about a week and a half. Players will report on July 31st. First practice is August 1st. And for me, I think Darrell Funk and BYU, they need to feel pretty good and have that room of 11 or 12 guys. They've got to have the starting 5 down to 5, maybe 6 or 7 that are still, a couple guys still in the mix. That's got to be week 1 type stuff for Darrell Funk. If it trickles into that, then I think you risk not having the camaraderie and the chemistry along the offensive line in weeks 1, 2, and 3 of the season. So for me, this is a week 1 type task for the offense and maybe the most important task for the offense once fall camp opens up here in about a week and a half. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here at the Daily Dose. As always, we will continue to provide you daily BYU content. We are going to have the best coverage on YouTube as fall camp and the season gets underway. It's so close. We're almost here, folks. Thank you so much for your support. And until next time, give them hell.